Local 6 Legal Line returns with attorneys from the Bryant Law Center in Paducah. Kevin Shannon, Austin Kennedy taking your questions regarding personal injury. And we have one already, and it's more related, I believe, to workers' comp. Philip says, am I entitled to any sort of settlement or compensation from work comp other than my wage loss while I'm off work?
Potentially. If it's a Kentucky work comp claim, you're generally going to have about 4 specific claims. You're going to have what's called a medical claim, both for past and future medicals. Future medicals would be left open for 15 years from the date of the accident. Getting close to that 15-year anniversary, you'll receive a notice saying that you can apply for an extension. You're also going to have a claim for what's called indemnity, or in a lot of ways it's kind of like future wage loss. And what that depends on is if you have permanency with your injury. So after you've had your medical treatment, you've been placed at maximum medical improvement, or you're as good as you're going to be by your treating physician, you can see if there's any sort of impairment according to the AMA guidelines 5th edition. If you have anything other than a 0%, then you would be entitled to additional weekly benefits for 425 weeks from the date that you get the settlement agreement approved. So I'd say it depends. It depends in large part really if it's a permanent injury versus just a minor injury where maybe had a hospital visit, went to your family doctor, got checked out and recovered completely, versus something like where you have a tear a muscle, have something where surgery, things like that, where you can definitely have permanency decided by a doctor.
We have heard a lot about Roundup in the news lately about the litigation going on regarding Roundup. And Leslie has a question, wants to know the statute of limitations on Roundup lawsuits, seeing as though he's been diagnosed with lymphoma in connection to Roundup.
That's a question that I don't know the answer to. Neither Austin or I, either one, are personally handling those in the office. What I can tell you is that statutes of limitations are sometimes moving targets. You know, if you have an automobile accident or you have a slip and fall, you know immediately that you've been injured, and the statute of limitations begins to run immediately at that time. When you've had exposure to a chemical like this, you don't know sometimes for years that exposure has caused you an injury. So what I would say is that why don't you give a call down to the office. You can talk with some of the folks on the team at our office that are actually handling those cases. They'll get some facts from you about your exposure and when you were first diagnosed with lymphoma, and then we can help try to assess that with a little more information from you.
I believe Betty has a question, and she asks if there's any settlement in the bear hugger claim. Are you all familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with the bear hugger claim.
Okay.
Don't know.
Okay. The next question we have just a few seconds left, and that is, do I need a lawyer if I was involved in a minor car accident and had to go to the ER for minor injuries?
You don't need one, but I would certainly recommend you give a call to a lawyer. It's not going to cost you anything to call. You can get some answers to your questions, and then you can make a decision about whether you want one.
Austin Kennedy, Kevin Shannon from the Bryant Law Center in Paducah have been our guests on this edition of Local 6 Legal Line.